What up, guys? It's K13 and welcome back to my channel. I'm with Leah today.
Hi.
Oh, there's Twix. Twix, say hi to the people. Very good, kitty. Last year, Leah started to do her own history podcast, and she didn't get too far into that type of project. We're discussing the idea of her retrying her podcast, but on my YouTube channel. So like a little collab type of thing. So that's what we're doing. Leah thought it would be fun to do a little history episode on the Salem witch trials.
The Salem witch trials. Yay.
Yay.
Happy
Burning
spooky
witches.
This is going to be very brief because it's a 15-ish minute video. So I hope it's interesting and that if you want to follow up, I will tell you about my sources. So for context, I want to talk about Puritan religion because that had to do a lot with everyone's beliefs at that time during everything that was happening. So the Puritans definitely believe in the good and evil and that God is in control of everything. They also believe in predestination, which is the belief that God has already decided who's going to go to heaven and who's going to go to hell. They thought that how you acted would kind of show where you're going to go. So if you followed all the rules, that was you're probably going to be in heaven, even though they believed there wasn't really a choice. The Puritans left England because they were trying to get away from the religion that was prevalent there, the Catholicism, and the church that came from the Reformation, because they didn't feel like it was completely what it should be. The Church of England wasn't pure enough in their eyes. Also, they were very intolerant of those who practiced religion in any other way than what they did. So they were very severe and strict on their beliefs, and you couldn't get an inch out of line, basically. So obviously they believed in the devil and evil and that witches were real. Another context thingy that I want to go into is in modern times we just think Salem as one thing. But it wasn't like that back then. There was a Salem town versus a Salem village. The Salem village is where all of this witch hunting happened. There was a rivalry between the two because Salem town was a lot bigger. It was a town versus a village. And the Salem village people had to come to Salem town, be security at night. And they're like, why do I have to walk an hour away from where I live to keep y'all safe, and you don't really help us? And they had to go there for the court anytime they needed to do anything. So they just had a lot of strife between them. Since we have the context, let's go into what happened. So there's a lot of people in this story, and I'm purposely not going to go over every single person because it gets really confusing, and I even get confused with all the different names and who people were. So don't feel bad if you're confused. I'll try to be as clear as possible. Preacher at that time, his name was Samuel Parris, and he was not a good preacher. In his contract, he asked for things that weren't normal for a preacher to ask for, and very shortly after he came, the whole village wanted to get rid of him. So, that being said, this story starts in the Parris household with Elizabeth Parris, who was nicknamed Betty, age 9, and Abigail Williams, who was 11, started having fits. Now, Elizabeth is his daughter, and Abigail is his niece. So the fits were, they contorted and they burst out screaming, violently at different times. And a doctor was brought in, and he diagnosed them with bewitchment, which is, wild to me that, a doctor was this is the diagnosis. You're bewitched.
I mean, yeah, but also time period wise.
Yes.
It's not that far-fetched
It's
to believe.
Just funny. So the girls, they started to accuse Sarah Good and Sarah Osborne. The timeline of these accusations are kind of confusing depending on what source you have. Let's talk about Sarah Good. Sarah Good's husband testified against her. So among other things, William Good confessed that he had seen a witch mark on her. If you don't know, a witch mark is like is like a birthmark, a mole, or like a skin tag. They thought was like saying you're a witch, or that you were like in league with the devil.
Could it be like any type of? Did it have to look like?
It didn't
kind
have
of outstanding. Like I have tons of skin tags on my neck.
Yeah,
Like, will that
like,
make me a witch?
Yeah, you're
I have a
a witch.
mole on my butt.
Yes. Anything that you had on your body that was like not just like your skin. I don't know how to explain it more.
Like people had freckles. I'm like that's just
freckles.
insane.
Yeah, it is. It is pretty crazy. They would strip the accused down. They would look every single inch of your body, like every inch of your body, to see if there was like a witch mark. You're basically screwed. Sarah Good accused Sarah Osborne, and it's really confusing because they're both named Sarah, and it's so annoying.
Just say Sarah G and Sarah O.
Okay. So Sarah G accused Sarah O after being questioned, and the girls, when they were well enough, claimed that both of the women tortured them together. So they said that both of these people were witches and were torturing them. So after all of this, there was a woman named Tituba was accused. Tituba was Paris's slave, the guy that the girls were, the dad, whatever. Okay. They went away to go to like a different town, and they asked a neighbor to watch over the girls while they were gone. The neighbor decided, this is buck wild, so to find out who was bewitching them, was to make a cake out of the bewitched girl's urine and like rye and have the dog eat it.
What the fuck?
And I don't know how that would tell you who was bewitching them, but that's what happened.
What?
So the neighbor who was watching them, her name was Mary, and she basically made Tituba's husband, John, who was also a slave, do it, but they blamed Tituba. They were like, she did it. And so they accused Tituba. So now we have 3 accused witches. I think they also accused John, Tituba's husband, but I don't think he was really, I don't know, he just disappeared in the story. So even though Tituba got accused, Paris, who was her master, didn't believe that she did it. She was very close to the daughter, Betty, and she knew a lot of scripture, so that right there is like kind of like, if you know scripture, you're not going to be a witch in their eyes, because you're like the devil basically and you're against God. But even though Paris himself didn't think she was a witch, Tituba confessed. When asked who hurt the girls, it was the devil, she said. She said a man and 4 others, including Sarah Good and Sarah Osborne, told her to torture the girls and threatened to kill her if she didn't. Now let's talk about the trials / the questionings of the accused. So they were questioned by magistrates John Hawthorne and Jonathan Corwin. So as I understand it, Hawthorne was like the main questioner, and he kind of like ran the show. During Tituba's questioning, there were some inconsistencies of her story, but no one really cared about it, because they just wanted to hear that someone was a witch, and they wanted to put her in jail and kill her or whatever. And Hawthorne, Tituba was fulfilling what he wanted with her answers. He's like asking her questions, and he's loving what she's saying. Yeah. Because it's furthering his agenda. Okay. Another thing that happened during the trial, which was buck wild, is that during the trials, the girls who were still being bewitched were like feet away from the accused. Like, if they reached their hands out, they could touch each other. And during whoever was being questioned, sometimes they would like react to it bodily, like contort and like scream and stuff. One of the girls even threw a shoe at one of the accused.
Yeah.
So we just don't do that today. You know, it's like so regulated that that would just never happen.
Right.
We know that there were lots of people accused. There's about 20. And so throughout many trials / questionings later, a thing called the Court of Oyer and Terminator was established to finally like put it in or like figure out what was going on with the witches.
What was it called?
It's
Court of
Oyer and Terminator.
Oyer?
So Oyer and Terminator.
Okay.
To some, I don't remember. But anyway, this court was even over Hawthorne and Corwin, who were the magistrates before. So with this court, they were, something she emphasizes in the book is that they were operating with two separate governments, Massachusetts and England.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes they would butt heads in like what kind of procedures and things they would have to go through in the trials. So that's another terrible thing. So a few more crazy things. So the judge, during this time in general, the judge could tell the jury what he thought. If there wasn't enough evidence, they could go by a gut feeling, which is just insane to me.
Right. Yeah.
There's no like fallback for not like being convinced either way, or like if like today, like if there's not enough evidence, then they throw it out. Like that's just how it is. But
Except today it's like innocent until proven guilty. Back then
Yeah.
it's like they decide you're a witch, guilty unless proven innocent.
yeah,
Except if you were like usually like the methods that I've always heard of is like drowning or burning. It's like, well, if they don't die, if they die,
if
then
they die,
you're
they weren't
innocent.
a witch. Yeah,
Then you're not
that's
a witch.
the whole water test. Is if you drown, then you were.
Because then they
Not
put like
a
a cinder
witch.
block or like something heavy.
No, just like if you went into the water and like you drowned, like you're
so
not
like
a
if
witch.
you could swim or not swim,
Yeah.
basically.
So the judge would tell him how he felt, or the judge might tell them to find the accused guilty. Like, so what's the point of the trial? If the judge is gonna say they're guilty, you need to assign them a guilty verdict.
Dude had nothing better to do.
So basically, reputation was more of a big thing back then, and reasonable doubt wasn't a thing. Sadly, by the end of all this witch hysteria, 20 people died because of it, and I think we can all agree that justice wasn't served. So there were a lot of reasons that this happened, but for me, the big ones were government failings, like the whole judge thing and the whole putting people in charge that just wanting to convict, like, guilty.
Right.
And then, which, like, most of them wanted it back then, or, like, saw it as, like, definitely they're a witch.
Yeah.
And definitely they need to die. But, another one was the strict religious beliefs, because religion and society were like this during this time. There was no room for like much anything else, like common sense, or thinking it through. And of course, fear. The night after some of the quote unquote witches were taken to jail, like weird stuff started happening in the town that couldn't be explained. So when you're afraid, like you do unrational things.
Well, it's one of those things that like it was probably normal things or things that did have explanations, but when you're in that mindset of like, oh, these witches are doing things, and then so something kind of that just seems remotely a little out of place, they're gonna like link that. It's like, oh, can't explain this, and I mean it's just the whole like imagination running wild thing,
right?
Like when you're scared of the dark, like and you're in bed or whatever, you're gonna hear things or see things, and you're thinking like your imagination runs wild. And yeah, people fear what they don't understand, and so
and like when everyone could be a witch, like there was a 5-year-old taken to jail because she was a witch. Like if a 5-year-old can be a witch, like who am I supposed to trust? So today there's a memorial for all those that lost their lives, which I really like, and I hope that I can visit someday. And apparently in 1711, the Massachusetts government restored the good names of the victims gave money to their heirs. But, like, I like that they did that, but, like, also, like, it's kind of too late. Like,
yeah. I mean,
that's the bare minimum. It makes me upset. And I kind of posted this on my social media, but I was like, you know what scares me? Injustice. It's terrifying that like things like this can happen and have happened and continue to happen in our world.
Yeah.
But we can push that to something better in our lives.
Yeah.
And
I mean, in a way, witch hunts happen. They're just not specifically about witches. They're about other things, and they're done more subtly or in other ways. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, there's lots of injustice.
Yeah. So that's pretty much all we have time for. Again, the book was The Witches by Stacy Schiff. And I also used the History Channel.
Schiff.
Schiff.
That's 2 F's.
Okay.
Stacy Schiff.
I also used the History Channel to help me just come up with our scripts today. Is there anything that you would like to say to the people? The wild story.
Beware for those witches.
It was fun to talk about some history today.
Yeah. All right, you guys. This was our first attempt at doing a little history type of history teaching. History video with Leah. Leah's obviously a huge history buff. I'm not. I like history, but I'm not a history buff, as they are called. But yeah, so we're gonna see how this first video goes, and then we're gonna explore options for future videos. So comment what you all thought about this video, and be sure to give us a thumbs up, and like and subscribe to my channel.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.